The keys to my new bungalow are still warm in my palm as I stand on the front porch, breathing in the crisp, Bend, Oregon air. 3 bedrooms. Mine. All mine. The thought still feels foreign, like trying on clothes I'm not sure I deserve. 2 cars pull into my driveway, kicking up dust that sparkles in the afternoon sunlight. My stomach twists as I recognize my parents' Buick, followed by Brooks's oversized SUV. Why are they here? I texted them my new address just an hour ago, expecting congratulatory calls, not this. Car doors slam in quick succession. My mother, Lorraine, emerges first, her silver blonde hair perfectly coiffed despite the 5-hour drive from Portland. My father follows, then Brooks with his wife Maren trailing behind. Their 3 children tumble out last, racing across my newly seeded lawn. Ellis, there you are, Mom calls, waving as if I might have missed the family caravan descending on my quiet street. Behind her, Brooks opens the trunk, revealing suitcases. Actual suitcases. And boxes. Moving boxes. My fingers tighten around the house keys, the metal edges biting into my skin. What's all this? I ask, my voice smaller than I'd like. Mom approaches, eyes darting between me and the modest bungalow behind me. Her smile falters as she takes in the single-story structure with its simple landscaping. Well, we've come to move in, of course. She looks back at the house again, brow furrowing. But, Ellis. She lowers her voice to a stage whisper. Then where do we sleep? The ground seems to shift beneath my feet. 9 years of saving, of skipping vacations and brown bagging lunches, of working weekends and holidays for the overtime, all for this moment. My moment. And somehow, without a single conversation, they've decided it belongs to them. Move in? I repeat. The words taste wrong in my mouth. Don't play dumb, Ellis, Brooks calls, hauling a suitcase from the trunk. We've been planning this for months. Planning this. Last month's family dinner rushes back to me in vivid detail. We'd gathered at my parents' home, the same Sunday ritual we'd maintained since I was a child. I'd mentioned, perhaps too proudly, that I'd finally qualified for a mortgage. Our new home, Mom had said immediately, clapping her hands together. Finally. I'd frowned, confused by the plural, but before I could correct her, Brooks had pulled out his phone. I've been saving listings, he'd said, scrolling through properties that made my stomach clench. Sprawling houses with price tags north of $750,000. This one has enough bedrooms for everyone. I'd said nothing then. A lifetime of experience had taught me that disagreement only led to disappointment, theirs and me. But I'd assumed they would realize their mistake. That surely they couldn't actually believe. This is my home, I say now, my voice steadier than I expect. I bought it for myself. Mom's laugh is quick and dismissive. Don't be ridiculous, Ellis. We've been planning this move for months. She gestures toward my father, who's directing Brooks on where to set down a particularly heavy box. Your father's already given notice at his job. My hands stop trembling. Something shifts inside me, a tectonic plate finding new alignment. I straighten my shoulders. Your plans, not mine. The words hang in the air between us. Mom's smile freezes, then slowly disappears. Dad glances up, sensing the change in atmosphere. What's the holdup? Let's get everything inside before dark. Ellis is being difficult, Brooks says, joining us on the porch. He's always been taller than me, and he uses it now, standing close enough that I have to tilt my chin up to meet his eyes. She's pretending she didn't promise to help us. Promise? I echo. I never. Ellis. Dad's voice has that familiar edge, the one that always preceded punishment when we were children. Your brother has given up his apartment. The children have been enrolled in school here. The weight of it crashes down on me. After years of putting their needs first, of being the responsible one, while Brooks floundered from one failed venture to another, I am once again expected to solve their problems. And if I don't, I'll be labeled the villain in the family story. Brooks places his hand on my shoulder, his fingers pressing just a little too firmly. He lowers his voice, the way he did when we were kids, and he was convincing me to take the blame for something he'd broken. If you don't help your own family, he says, who will? I look at the keys in my hand, at the door behind me that leads to empty rooms waiting for my life to fill them, at the family watching me with expectation in their eyes. And for the first time, I wonder if I have the courage to choose myself. The ping of a new email notification draws my attention away from the unpacked boxes crowding my living room. 3 days since the driveway confrontation, and my family has retreated to Portland in a cold silence that feels both like relief and impending storm. I tap the screen, expecting a message from work, but instead find something from Valley Vista Realty. My thumb hovers over the delete button. I already have my bungalow. Why would I need a realtor? But the subject line freezes my blood. Morgan Family Dream Home. Purchase agreement ready. I open it, scanning quickly until I find the words that punch the air from my lungs. As requested by Lorraine Morgan, on behalf of Ellis Morgan, primary applicant, I've attached the purchase agreement for the Riverside Estates property. The $2,000 hold has been processed using the payment information provided. My legs give out. I sink onto the nearest box, hand pressed against my suddenly racing heart. The room tilts as I scroll through the attached documents, each page revealing a new betrayal. My name. My financial information. Loan paperwork listing me as co-signer on a $768,000 mortgage, a house I've never seen. My mother used my identity. My credit score. Everything I've worked for. When the doorbell rings an hour later, I'm still sitting on that box, surrounded by printouts of emails and documentation I've pulled from my accounts. The browser tabs open on my laptop show a digital trail of my family's presumption. My mother walks in first, not waiting for an invitation, followed by my father and Brooks. They arrange themselves around me, Brooks pacing with the confidence of someone who's never been told no, my father checking his watch every 30 seconds as if my life crisis is inconveniently timed, and my mother rifling through a stack of my mail on the counter. You look awful, Mom says, as if my appearance is the problem. Have you been sleeping? I hold up the realtor's email. You used my name without permission. Her eyes flick to my father, who suddenly finds the ceiling fascinating. Don't be dramatic, Ellis, she says, waving away the evidence of identity fraud, as if I've complained about borrowed lip gloss. I simply initiated the process. You would have been consulted before anything was finalized. Consulted? The word tastes bitter. You put a $2,000 hold using my payment information. That's not consultation, that's theft. Brooks stops pacing. Strong words for family helping family. How exactly were you helping me by trying to make me responsible for a house I can't afford? It's an investment, my father finally speaks, his tone suggesting I'm being unreasonable. The schools there are excellent. We've already enrolled the kids. The casual mention of yet another decision made without me lands like a slap. You enrolled the children in a school district where you don't live, based on a house I never agreed to buy? Well, we had to secure their spots, Mom says, as if this explains everything. The waiting list is quite long. Brooks shrugs, leaning against my kitchen counter. I've already given notice at my job. 2 weeks and I'm officially a Bend resident. Each revelation builds upon the last, constructing a tower of presumption so high I can barely see past it. They've arranged their entire futures around my financial sacrifice, without once asking if I was willing to make it. This stops now, I say, gathering the papers into a neat stack. I'm not buying that house. I'm not co-signing a loan. I'm not funding your relocation. Mom's eyes fill with tears that look rehearsed. If your credit score drops because of this, our scores will fall even further. We'll never qualify for anything decent. Our rental agreement is already terminated, Brooks adds. The landlord has new tenants coming in next month. You're destroying this family, Mom whispers, a tear sliding perfectly down her cheek. After everything we've sacrificed for you. Something snaps inside me. Sacrificed? Let me tell you about sacrifice. I pull out my budget book, the one that's tracked every penny for 9 years. 65% of every paycheck saved, no vacations, no new cars, lunches packed at home, secondhand furniture. 9 years of saying no to everything so I could finally say yes to something that was just for me. My father scoffs. Everyone has to budget, Ellis. Not Brooks, I say, looking directly at my brother. Not when you emptied my college tuition account for his coffee shop that lasted all of 6 months. Brooks has the decency to look away. That was an investment, Mom says defensively. In him, never in me. The room fills with tense silence, broken by the sudden ring of my phone. Noelle's name flashes on the screen, and for the first time in days, I feel something other than dread. I need to take this, I say, standing straighter. We're not finished, Brooks warns. I answer the phone anyway, Noelle's warm hello giving me the courage I've been searching for. I look at my family, these people who claim to love me, while planning to use me and find my voice. Actually, we are finished. The answer is no. As I watched their faces fall when I firmly said, no, I wondered if protecting your own future is worth the pain of disappointing those who raised you. Should I have compromised and found a larger home we could all share? Or was drawing this boundary the only way to finally claim my independence? At the office the next day, the phone rings for the 5th time in an hour. I don't recognize the number, but I know exactly who it is, another distant relative I haven't spoken to in years, suddenly concerned about my abandonment of family. I silence it and set my phone face down on the kitchen counter, where 3 other missed calls from area codes across Oregon blink accusingly. Brooks has been busy. My brother's strategic campaign began yesterday with a carefully worded Facebook post about family crisis and prayers needed. By nightfall, second cousins I barely remember were messaging me about doing the right thing. When Aunt Patty called this morning in tears about that poor boy and his children, I knew Brooks had elevated his game. The landline rings now, my emergency backup that only 5 people have the number to. I answer without thinking. Ellis, it's Grandma Joanne. My stomach clenches. Grandma Joanne, the family matriarch, who sends birthday checks and Christmas packages, even though we see her once every 3 years. I don't understand what's happening, she says, her voice wavering with the particular fragility that appears whenever she wants something. Brooks says you've left them homeless. That's not true, I say, but she continues as if I haven't spoken. I've always included you equally in my will, Ellis, but family takes care of family. The threat hangs between us for 3 heartbeats before I manage to respond. I saved for 9 years to buy this house, Grandma. They assumed I was buying it for them without ever asking me. Well, she says, voice hardening, I never thought you'd be so selfish. After she hangs up, I sink to the kitchen floor and press my forehead against my knees. They're winning. Even from 30 miles away, they're finding ways to make me doubt myself. I close my eyes and the memory surfaces like an unwelcome visitor my senior year of college, opening my tuition account to find it empty. Mom's voice on the phone, casual as if discussing the weather. We had to help Brooks with the coffee shop. You'll figure something out. You always do. The coffee shop that closed 4 months later. The tuition balance that nearly kept me from graduating. The 60-hour weeks I worked while taking a full course load, coming home to my studio apartment at 2 a.m. to eat instant oatmeal because it was 19 cents per packet at the discount store. The night I found my mother's name on the withdrawal slip, I made a promise to myself. Standing in my bathroom, staring at my hollow-eyed reflection, I whispered it aloud. Never again. They will never make me financially vulnerable again. 9 years of that promise. 9 years of brown bag lunches and shared apartments with paper-thin walls. 9 years of saying no to vacations and dinners out and new clothes. 9 years of 65% of every paycheck going straight into savings. My phone buzzes with a text. I expect another relative's name, but it's Marin. I understand why you said no, she's written. I would have done the same. The words glow on the screen, a small flame of validation in the storm. I read them 3 times before setting the phone down, something unfamiliar and warm spreading through my chest. Later that evening, they arrive unannounced at my apartment, Mom, Dad, and Brooks, finding me surrounded by half-packed boxes for my move. Dad stands with his arms crossed while Mom paces, picking up my things and setting them down in different spots as if already rearranging my life. After everything we've done for you, Dad says, his voice low and measured, this is how you repay us? Something shifts inside me. Without a word, I cross to the bookshelf and pull down 3 photo albums I've kept since childhood. I place them on the coffee table and open the first one. My high school graduation, I say, pointing to a photo where I stand alone in cap and gown. You had that fishing trip, remember? I turn the page. College scholarship ceremony. Brooks had a baseball game that day. Page after page I turn, my voice growing steadier with each one. My first art show, the design award ceremony, the promotion celebration. Noelle threw for me that they said was too far to drive. This is what you've done for me, I say finally, closing the album. You've taught me that I'm only valuable when I'm useful to you. My mother's face crumples. Dad looks away. Brooks starts to speak, but the doorbell interrupts him. Noelle stands there with 2 more empty boxes and a roll of packing tape. She takes in the scene with one glance and steps inside, ignoring Brooks's attempt to intercept her. Ready for the next load? Thanks for watching, she asks me, as if my family isn't there at all. Give us a minute, Brooks says, reaching for her arm. Noelle sidesteps him gracefully. Ellis and I have a schedule. The truck's only rented until 7. While my family has spent decades demanding sacrifice, my friends have spent years celebrating my milestones. The contrast stands stark in my living room as Noelle begins efficiently packing my kitchen items. We need to resolve this, my mother insists. I straighten my shoulders. There's nothing to resolve. The house is mine. We could meet tomorrow, I add, surprising myself with how firm my voice sounds. No apology follows, no softening qualification, just the statement, standing on its own. They exchange glances, sensing the shift but misreading it as weakness. At your new place, Brooks says quickly. We can discuss options. I nod, watching them leave with visible relief on their faces. They think I'm reconsidering. They don't know I've already completed the purchase and move, that my furniture was delivered yesterday, that the utilities are in my name alone. That night, I stand in my finished living room, rehearsing the words I've waited 9 years to say. My voice doesn't waver once. The morning sun streams through the windows of my new bungalow, painting golden rectangles across hardwood floors I selected myself. I adjust a vase of fresh sunflowers on the dining table one-place setting, not 5, not 8. My college diploma hangs prominently in the entryway, no longer tucked away in a drawer as it was in my apartment. Each item in this house has been chosen with deliberate care, each placement a quiet declaration. My phone buzzes with a text from Noelle. They on their way? I respond with a simple thumbs-up emoji and take a deep breath. The air smells of lemon polish and fresh paint, my choices. My home. When the doorbell rings, I count to 5 before answering. My mother's smile falters as she steps inside, her eyes darting around the fully furnished living room. Behind her, my father's eyebrows lift in surprise. You've already moved in, Mom says, her voice flat. Brooks pushes past them both, stopping short at the sight of my leather reading chair angled perfectly beneath the window. Where's the space for our stuff? There isn't any, I say, my voice steady. Would you like some coffee? I just made a fresh pot. The confidence in my tone catches them off guard. Brooks looks to our parents, waiting for their cue, but they're still taking in the bookshelves filled with my architecture books, the artwork hanging on walls, the clearly established presence of a single occupant. Ellis, my father begins, but falls silent as his gaze lands on the framed blueprints of my bungalow, my first independent project, now proudly displayed above the fireplace. While Mom inspects my kitchen cabinets, Brooks slips outside. Through the window, I watch him approach my neighbor Harold, who's watering his rose bushes. Brooks gestures animatedly toward my house, his smile wide and convincing. I open the window just enough to hear his voice carry across the yard. Moving in this weekend, Ellis has been so generous to offer us a place to stay while... Harold straightens, water dripping from his suspended watering can. Really? That's not what Ellis told me when she signed the fence permit last week. She was so proud to show me the house plans, said it was her first place all to herself after 9 years of saving, even showed me the single-occupant paperwork from the HOA. Brooks's shoulders stiffen. When he turns, he finds Marin standing behind him, arms crossed, having heard every word. Single-occupant paperwork? She asks, her voice carrying clearly through the open window. You told me Ellis had agreed to everyone moving in. Brooks stammers. She changed her mind, obviously. She's being selfish. Marin's eyes narrow. Like when she changed her mind about lending you $5,000 last year? The money you swore she'd offered, but somehow she had no memory of? I close the window gently and turn back to my mother, who's reorganizing my spice rack. As I watch her examining my kitchen cabinets, calculating how to rearrange them for her needs, I wonder, should I offer a compromise to keep peace? Or would any concession now invite boundary violations forever? The doorbell rings again, saving me from answering my own question. When I open it, Noelle stands there with a large, flat package wrapped in brown paper. Surprise, she announces, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. I couldn't wait to give you your housewarming gift. My mother's head snaps up. Housewarming? We weren't told about any party. Just a small gathering next weekend, Noelle says, winking at me. Ellis's friends are so excited to see her new place. We've been hearing about her saving for this for years. The package in Noelle's hand suddenly feels like reinforcement troops arriving at a critical battle moment. She tears away the paper to reveal a doormat with custom lettering. Ellis's home. Perfect for your front porch, she says, her voice carrying throughout the house. Since this is, officially Ellis's home. The silence that follows has weight and substance. Brooks re-enters with Marin behind him, his confident stride now reduced to uncertain shuffling. His eyes dart to the doormat, then to me, calculation replacing certainty. My father clears his throat. Perhaps we should discuss alternative arrangements, he says, the first crack in their unified front. Marin steps forward. What about that apartment complex on Riverside? The one with 3 bedrooms starting at $1,800? Brooks shoots her a betrayed look. That's not the point. Ellis has all this space. For herself, Marin interrupts. She bought it for herself. My mother sits heavily on one of my kitchen stools, finally seeming to understand that the family's assumed plan has completely unraveled. But what about the house we put a hold on? We'll lose our deposit if... We should talk about this in the living room, my father says, attempting to regain control of the situation. Ellis needs to make her final decision clear to everyone. I nod, gesturing toward my carefully arranged living room. Let's do that. As they file in, I catch Noelle's eye. She gives me a subtle thumbs up, and for the first time since they arrived, I feel the tension in my shoulders begin to ease. My home remains my own, its boundaries finally becoming visible to those who never thought to look for them. My mother's fingers work nervously at her pearl necklace as she leans forward on my new sofa. The cushion beneath her barely shows an indentation, as if she's prepared to spring up at any moment. Ellis, be reasonable, she says, her voice honeyed with the familiar tone she's used since I was small. We're not asking you to give us anything, just co-sign the loan. You have no dependents, no real responsibilities. Dad nods, his smile strained beneath his mustache. It's the sensible solution. You keep this. Starter home. He glances around my living room, unable to hide his disappointment at its modest proportions, and we get a place with enough room for everyone. Brooks paces behind them, hands clasped behind his back like he's presenting a business proposal. Family duty isn't something you can just opt out of, Ellis. We've always been there for each other. I notice how carefully they've positioned themselves, my parents on the sofa facing me, Brooks moving behind like a shark circling prey. They've rehearsed this, probably in the rental car on the way over. And if you refuse, Brooks adds, stopping to lock eyes with me, you're effectively cutting yourself off from this family. Is that really what you want? To be alone? The threat hangs in the air between us. For a moment, I feel that familiar tightening in my chest, the panic of potentially losing the only family I've ever known. But then I look around at my home. My home. The sensation passes, replaced by something steadier, stronger. I rise slowly from my armchair and walk to the small secretary desk in the corner. 3 sets of eyes follow me as I retrieve a folder. I've been financially independent since college, I say, returning to stand before them rather than resuming my seat, despite what you all did. What we did. Mom's hand flies to her throat in practiced offense. We supported you. You drained my tuition account for Brooks's coffee shop, I say, my voice calm but firm. Senior year, spring semester. I had to work 2 jobs while finishing my degree. Dad shifts uncomfortably. That was an investment in your brother's future. And what about my future? I open the folder and remove a stack of bank statements, placing them on the coffee table. 9 years of statements. 65% of every paycheck saved. No vacations. Lunch from home every day. No streaming services. No new clothes unless absolutely necessary. I tap my finger on the most recent statement. This is how I afforded this house. Not by having it handed to me. Not by using someone else's credit or name. Brooks scoffs. So, what, you want to medal for being boring? For having no life? I have a life, I reply. One I built myself, piece by piece. I look directly at my mother. You keep saying I'm betraying the family. I'm not betraying anyone. I'm just done betraying myself. The silence that follows feels like the space between lightning and thunder charged with electricity, waiting for the boom. This is ridiculous. Brooks finally snaps. We've given notice at our apartment. The kids are enrolled in school here. Dad's already quit his job in Portland. Your poor planning isn't my emergency, I say, the words feeling foreign but right on my tongue. Mom's eyes narrow. We raised you better than this. I consider her words, turning them over carefully. Maybe you did. You raised me to be responsible, to work hard, to honor my commitments. That's exactly what I'm doing now. I stand and cross to my front door, opening it wide. The evening air rushes in, cool and clarifying. I reach into my pocket and pull out the spare key I'd found in my mother's purse yesterday, the one she'd had made without asking. Walking to the entryway table, I place it there with a soft but deliberate click. You don't get to decide what my success looks like, I say. You don't get to claim what I've earned as communal property. Brooks's face transforms, disbelief giving way to anger as he realizes I'm not going to change my mind. After everything we've done for you. This is my home, I interrupt, speaking the words I've rehearsed countless times. Bought, earned, and chosen by me. Mom stands now, trembling slightly. How can you be so selfish? Family helps family. Yes, they do. I agree. But help isn't the same as sacrifice. Help isn't the same as exploitation. I step aside, the open door a clear invitation to leave. I'm not asking you to leave my life, just my house. One by one they file past me, Dad first, eyes averted, Brooks next, jaw tight with fury, Mom last, lingering as if certain I'll crumble at the final moment. Ellis, she whispers, reaching for my hand. Please. I look at her, really look at her, and for the first time, see her not as the all-powerful matriarch of my childhood, but as a woman who never learned to stand on her own. In that moment, I feel something unexpected, compassion without capitulation. I love you, I tell her, but this answer is still no. When I close the door behind them, I don't slam it in anger. I shut it with quiet finality, then lean my forehead against the cool wood and breathe. The weeks that follow pass in strange silence. Through the neighborhood grapevine, I hear that Brooks and his family have moved into a small rental across town. 2 bedrooms for 5 people, a tight fit, but manageable. A fresh start, whether they wanted one or not. My parents' silence stretches longer. No calls, no texts, no emails. At first, the absence feels like punishment, but gradually it transforms into something else. Space. Room to breathe. To exist without explanation or apology. 34 days after I closed my door on them, my phone buzzes with a text from Marin. When I open it, I find a photo, Brooks painting the living room of their rental, the children helping with rollers, making a mess but laughing. Below it, her message, "Thank you. I think we needed this reset more than we knew." I stare at the image, trying to decipher what it means for them, for me, for whatever comes next. My finger hovers over the reply button, uncertain what to say to this unexpected olive branch from the most unexpected source. The laughter of my friends mingles with the clink of wine glasses in my living room. 3 months into homeownership, and my bungalow finally feels like the sanctuary I envisioned during those 9 years of saving. Noelle raises her glass in another toast, her smile reflecting the warm glow of the vintage floor lamp I restored last weekend. To Ellis, who taught us all that saying no can be the beginning of something beautiful, she declares, I don't blush or deflect the compliment as I once would have. Instead, I lift my own glass, allowing myself to fully inhabit this moment of joy without seeking anyone's approval but my own. My gaze drifts to the wall beside us, where I've created a gallery of personal milestones, my architecture degree, photos from hiking trips I took alone, the certificate from my first professional award. Not a single image is crowded by obligation or overshadowed by someone else's expectations. The light in here is perfect. Remarks my neighbor Janet, an artist in her 70s who's become an unexpected friend. You've created something special. The word created settles around me like a comfortable sweater. For the first time in my life, I'm building something that belongs entirely to me. My phone buzzes against the coffee table just as I'm hanging the final photograph, a simple shot of my front door on closing day. I almost let it go to voicemail when I see my mother's name on the screen, but something compels me to answer. Ellis? Her voice sounds smaller than I remember. I was wondering if I might visit sometime next week. Just me. 3 months ago, I would have immediately rearranged my schedule, grateful for any scrap of attention. The old anxiety flickers briefly, then dissolves. Tuesday evening would work. I reply, my voice steady. I have meetings until 6, so any time after that would be fine. Just for dinner, though I have an early client presentation Wednesday. The silence stretches long enough that I wonder if she's hung up. Tuesday at 6:30 then, she finally says. I don't apologize for the boundaries. I don't explain or justify. The conversation ends with simple confirmation rather than desperate placation. Later that evening, my backyard fills with the people who truly supported me. Marin sits at my patio table, watching her children explore my small garden. She left Brooks last month, a decision that earned her immediate inclusion in what Noelle jokingly calls the Boundary Brigade. Janet brought strawberry shortcake. The neighbor from across the street dropped by with a potted herb garden. We raise our glasses as the sunset paints the sky in broad strokes of orange and purple. To new beginnings, Marin says, and boundaries worth keeping. The following Tuesday arrives with surprising calm. When the doorbell rings precisely at 6:30, I open it to find my mother standing there with a small box of cinnamon cookies, the ones she made when I was little, and achieved something worthy of celebration. She doesn't push past me or immediately criticize my decor choices. Instead, she waits to be invited in, stepping carefully into the space I've created. We sit in silence for several minutes, the weight of everything said and unsaid between us, creating a tangible presence in the room. I move to the kitchen and prepare coffee for two, my movements unhurried. I don't rush to fill the silence or apologize for the modesty of my home. When I return, I place her mug before her with quiet confidence. As I watched my mother take her first sip of coffee in my kitchen, I wondered if some bridges are meant to be rebuilt differently than they first stood. Would you tear down completely and start fresh, or salvage the foundation and redesign the structure? She cradles the mug between her hands, her wedding ring clinking softly against the ceramic. This is a lovely home, Ellis, she says finally. The words sound unpracticed, tentative, perhaps the first genuine compliment she's given me in years. It's a small beginning, but it's enough for now. My phone rings, jolting me from the peaceful rhythm of my morning. Mother's name flashes on the screen, an unexpected sight that sends my heart racing before I even answer. Harper? Her voice carries that artificial sweetness I've learned to distrust over the years. I have wonderful news. We're having a special celebration for your grandfather's 91st birthday next weekend. Walter would love for you to be there. The coffee mug slips from my fingers, shattering against the kitchen tile. Dark liquid spreads across the floor like spilled secrets. Grandpa Walter? My voice sounds strange, distant. I haven't seen him in almost 4 years. Well, that's what makes this so special, Mother says, her tone carefully measured. He specifically asked for you. My knuckles turn white as I grip the counter edge. 4 years of monthly calls met with excuses. 4 years of, he's resting, and doctor's orders, and maybe next month, dear. 4 years of wondering why the man who taught me to develop photographs in his makeshift darkroom suddenly wouldn't take my calls. Dean appears in the doorway, drawn by the sound of breaking ceramic. His eyes lock onto my trembling hands. Is everything okay? He mouths. I shake my head slightly, unable to form words, as Mother continues detailing travel arrangements, as if this invitation isn't completely out of character for my family. Why now? I finally interrupt. After 4 years of keeping me away, why am I suddenly welcome? A heavy pause stretches between us. I can almost see Mother's lips pressing into that thin line of disapproval. Don't make this difficult, Harper, she says, her sweetness evaporating. He's getting older. This might be your last chance to see him. The last Christmas card I sent came back unopened with "not accepting visitors," scrawled across the envelope in Mother's handwriting, not Grandpa's shaky script. The birthday presents returned without acknowledgement. The promises Grandpa made about leaving me his mountain home in Loveland Pass, followed by years of silence. Something isn't right. I'll think about it, I say, which isn't what Mother wants to hear. There's nothing to think about. Your sister's already handling all the arrangements. We need to know about your flights by tomorrow. Carly. Of course. The golden child who can do no wrong, who still lives 20 minutes from our parents and has unrestricted access to Grandpa Walter while I've been systematically kept away. I need to check with Dean about work, I say, watching my husband's concerned expression. I'll call you back. I hang up before Mother can protest. The trembling in my hands stops suddenly, replaced by a cold certainty. What's going on? Dean asks, already grabbing paper towels for the coffee spill. That was my mother. Apparently, Grandpa Walter wants to see me for his birthday next weekend. Dean's eyes narrow. He's heard enough stories about my family to recognize when something doesn't add up. Why now, after all this time? He asks, watching my face carefully. I meet his gaze, the decision already forming. I don't know, but I'm going to find out. Later that evening, tickets purchased and time off requested, Dean and I sit on our balcony overlooking the Seattle skyline. The conversation I've been avoiding can't wait any longer. You know what this might mean, Dean says quietly. Going back there, reopening all those old wounds. I nod, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of amber and gold. They'll do what they always do. Make me feel like the outsider while Carly orchestrates everything. Mother will introduce me as our daughter from Seattle like I'm some distant relative nobody remembers. Dean takes my hand, his thumb tracing circles on my palm. You don't have to go. He's the only one who ever truly cared about me, I whisper. If there's even a chance to see him again. Then we go together, Dean says firmly. Or not at all. I won't let them isolate you again. The knot in my chest loosens slightly. Whatever awaits me in Colorado, at least I won't face it alone. Something about this invitation feels wrong. But after 4 years of separation from the man who taught me to see beauty through a camera lens, I'll risk walking into whatever trap my family has set. For Grandpa Walter, I'll walk through fire. I just hope I don't get burned beyond recognition in the process. The next day, the mountain road twists higher as Dean navigates the rental car toward Grandpa Walter's house in Loveland Pass. My stomach clenches with each familiar curve, memories of summer visits washing over me like the golden Colorado sunlight. Almost there, I whisper, more to myself than to Dean. But as we round the final bend, I don't recognize the place that appears before us. Walter's humble A-frame cabin has transformed into something grander, with a sprawling addition that stretches toward the pines. The weathered blue shutters are gone, replaced by sleek black fixtures that look startlingly modern against the rustic setting. Are you sure this is the right address? Dean asks, voicing my own disorientation. Unfortunately, yes. Inside, the transformation is even more jarring. The worn leather furniture and handmade quilts have vanished, replaced by minimalist pieces that belong in a magazine spread, not my grandfather's mountain retreat. But what stops me cold is the wall where Grandpa's prized workshop once stood, now completely converted into a gleaming home theater, with reclining chairs and a projection screen. His tools, I murmur, running my hand along the pristine wall. They're all gone. Dean squeezes my shoulder. Maybe they're stored somewhere? I shake my head. He would never. My voice trails off as my gaze catches something above the fireplace. A large family portrait featuring my parents, Carly and her husband, even distant cousins I barely know. Everyone except me. My absence isn't an oversight. It's a statement. Before I can process this, voices filter in from the back patio. We follow the sound to find the living room crowded with at least 20 people I don't recognize. They turn as we enter, curious eyes assessing me like I'm an unexpected plot twist in their carefully scripted afternoon. Carly stands in the center, clipboard in hand, directing caterers with practiced authority. Her blonde hair is swept into a perfect updo that matches her cream-colored dress. She belongs here in a way I clearly don't. Harper! She spots me and crosses the room with a smile that doesn't reach her eyes. You made it. Mother wasn't sure you'd actually come. I said I would. I shift uncomfortably, still holding my overnight bag because no one has offered to show us to a room. Mother emerges from the kitchen, champagne flute in hand. Harper, come meet everyone. She guides me toward an elderly couple near the window. This is our daughter from Seattle, she says, her tone suggesting I've been living on another planet rather than just a different state. The woman smiles politely. How nice. I didn't know Meredith had another daughter besides Carly. The words sting more than they should. 4 years of absence, and I've been erased. I break away from Mother's grip and wander through the room, listening. 2 men in expensive outdoor wear stand near the bar, heads bent in conversation. The situation with Walter is getting more complicated. The taller one says, "They can't keep." He stops abruptly as I approach, eyes widening in recognition or alarm. They immediately separate, moving to opposite sides of the room. What situation? And why the secrecy? I feel Carly's husband Blake watching me from across the room. When I head toward the hallway that leads to the bedrooms, he casually repositions himself to block my path. Looking for something? Who? He asks, his tone friendly, but his stance unmistakably territorial. Just getting my bearings, I reply. Everything's so different now. He nods sympathetically, but doesn't move. Later, when the crowd thins slightly, I try again, making my way down the hallway toward Grandpa Walter's bedroom. The door is locked, something that never happened in all my years of visiting. Mother appears beside me as if summoned by my hand on the doorknob. "Family only in there?" she says, with a tight smile. "Walter needs his rest before the big celebration tomorrow." "I am family," I counter, meeting her gaze. Her smile doesn't waver. "Of course you are, dear, but he's resting now." As she guides me back toward the living room, I duck into what used to be the library. The built-in shelves remain, but most of Walter's beloved photography books are gone, replaced by decorative objects that have no connection to him. I'm about to leave when something catches my eye, a small frame tucked behind a vase on the bottom shelf. I kneel down and carefully retrieve it, my breath catching as I wipe away the dust. It's a photo of 16-year-old me and Grandpa Walter standing beside his darkroom door, both of us holding cameras and grinning widely. He'd just taught me how to develop my first roll of film. The inscription in his shaky handwriting reads, "To my Harper, the only one who sees the world the way I do." As I stand there holding that dusty frame, I wonder, should I confront my family about their strange behavior immediately, or should I wait until I could speak with Grandpa Walter alone? Direct confrontation might force the truth, but patience might reveal what they were hiding. What would you do when your own family seems to be conspiring against you? I tuck the photo into my bag, the only evidence I've found that I ever belonged in this house or in this family. Carly raises her champagne flute, the crystal catching light in a way that makes me squint. The crowd shifts, bodies pressing together as everyone gravitates toward the center of the living room. "Ladies and gentlemen," my sister announces with theatrical flair, her voice carrying that perfect pitch of rehearsed spontaneity. "The guest of honor has finally decided to join us." I stand on tiptoes, trying to see over shoulders and heads. Somewhere in that sea of unfamiliar faces is supposedly Grandpa Walter, the man I've been denied access to for 4 long years. My heart pounds against my ribs like it's trying to escape. "Dean," I whisper, clutching his arm. I can't see him. Dean, taller than most of the guests, cranes his neck. They're bringing someone in a wheelchair through the side door. I move to step forward, but Mother materializes beside me, her hand gripping my elbow with surprising strength. "Let him have some space, Harper," she says, smiling for the benefit of nearby guests, while her fingers dig into my skin. He tires easily these days. I try again 10 minutes later, weaving between chatting clusters toward where I glimpse the back of a wheelchair. Mother intercepts me with a plate of appetizers. "Let him have some space, Harper," she repeats, the words identical but her tone harder. "You'll have plenty of time later." By the third attempt, she doesn't bother with pretense. "Harper, stop hovering. You're making everyone uncomfortable." I retreat to the periphery of the room, watching as neighbors and distant relatives I barely recognize take turns, leaning down to speak with someone I still can't see. While waiting for my chance, I notice something odd. A young man in catering uniform removes books from the built-in shelves flanking the fireplace, stacking them in a cardboard box. These aren't just any books, they're Grandpa Walter's photography collection, first editions he spent decades acquiring. I approach the man. "What's happening with those books?" He startles, nearly dropping a leather-bound volume of Ansel Adams' landscapes. "Mrs. Quinn asked us to clear some space, said they're going to storage." I glance toward Mother, deep in conversation with Uncle Travis's wife. When I look back at the shelves, I realize they've already been half emptied. How had I not noticed earlier? Dean finds me an hour later, staring at the bookshelves that once housed Grandpa's handwritten journals alongside his camera collection. Now they display generic decorative objects, glass balls, small ceramic bowls, things I've never seen before. It's like they're erasing him. I whisper, pulling out my phone to snap photos of the altered shelves, while supposedly celebrating him. Dean's eyes narrow. "I've been walking through the house. His dark room is now a wine cellar. The workshop where he taught you to develop film is completely gone. It's a home gym now." My stomach twists. But he only turned 91 last week. When did they have time to make all these changes? "That's what I've been wondering," Dean says softly. I continue documenting changes with my phone camera. The missing family photos that used to line the hallway, now replaced with abstract art. The antique desk where Grandpa wrote letters, nowhere to be seen. The reading nook in the sunroom, transformed into a modern seating area with no books in sight. With each discovery, My sense of disorientation grows. This house, once as familiar to me as my own reflection, feels increasingly foreign, as if someone has systematically removed all traces of the man who raised me after my father died. An elderly woman in catering attire approaches with a tray of desserts. When she offers it to me, I shake my head, too nauseated by anxiety to eat. "Not even one?" she asks, her voice gentle. She leans closer, patting my hand. "I remember when you used to visit with your grandfather. He always made sure we baked those lemon cookies you loved." My eyes snap to her face. "You knew Grandpa Walter?" 20 years I catered his events," she says with a warm smile. "He spoke of you often." Before I can ask more questions, Carly claps her hands for attention. The crowd shifts again, parting to reveal a frail figure in a wheelchair positioned near the fireplace. "It's time for the birthday toast," she announces. I push forward, desperate for a clear view, but the guests form an impenetrable wall. Through gaps between shoulders, I catch glimpses. Thin white hair, plaid blanket across knees, liver-spotted hands. Dean appears at my side, his face unusually pale. He leans close to my ear and whispers urgently, "Get your bag. We're leaving. Now." "What? But I haven't even spoken to Grandpa yet." "Harper." His voice is tight. "Trust me. We need to go." Something in his tone stops my protest. I follow him toward the door, glancing back one last time. For a brief moment, the crowd shifts enough for me to see the man in the wheelchair fully. Our eyes meet across the room. His gaze slides over me without a flicker of recognition, then continues moving around the room. His eyes don't track naturally, they sweep mechanically, like someone pretending to survey a crowd. Dean practically drags me outside to the rental car. Once the doors close, I turn to him. "What's going on? Why did we leave?" "That's not your grandfather," Dean says, his voice deadly calm. He pulls out his phone, opens his photo gallery, and shows me a picture he took earlier of the man in the wheelchair, zoomed in on his face. "Look at the ears," he says, then swipes to a family photo I'd sent him years ago. "Your grandfather's ears are attached lobes. This man's are free. Ears don't change shape, Harper." That man's not even close. I stare at the comparison, ice flooding my veins. But who? I don't know. Dean starts the car. But I took pictures of his hands too. The knuckles are all wrong. This isn't a case of your grandfather looking different because he's aged. That's a completely different person. My mind reels as Dean shows me more evidence. The different nose structure, the height difference visible even in the wheelchair, the absence of the scar on Walter's left temple from his youth. While my family spent years keeping me away with excuses and returned mail, Dean spent less than 2 hours gathering irrefutable proof that the Walter they presented wasn't my grandfather at all. "Do you think?" I can barely form the question. "Is Grandpa Walter dead?" Dean reaches across to squeeze my hand. "I don't know, but I downloaded the property records for this house on my phone before we came. Walter Quinn is still listed as the legal owner. If something happened to him, they're hiding it." I pull out my phone with trembling fingers and dial the local police. After explaining my concerns about my grandfather's welfare, the dispatcher promises to send someone to meet us. 20 minutes later, Officer Martinez pulls into the hotel parking lot where we've been waiting. She's middle-aged with shrewd eyes that miss nothing as she examines Dean's photos. After taking detailed notes about when I last had confirmed contact with Grandpa Walter, the officer pulls me aside, away from Dean. "You know it's not him, don't you?" she asks quietly. The question knocks the air from my lungs. Not a possibility anymore, but a certainty in this officer's mind. "Yes," I whisper, "but I don't know why they would do this." Officer Martinez's expression hardens. In my experience, when families lie about elderly relatives, it usually comes down to one thing. She pauses, her gaze steady on mine. "Money." I sit at the edge of the hotel bed, spreading out photographs of Grandpa Walter in a neat semicircle. Officer Martinez pulls a chair closer, her notebook open on her lap. The hotel room's yellow lamplight casts shadows across the images of my grandfather's face from happier times. The last time I had a confirmed conversation with my grandfather was the 14th of September, 2021. I explain, pointing to a screenshot of a call log on my phone. After that, every attempt to reach him was intercepted by my mother or sister. Dean sits quietly by the window, his laptop open, fingers moving rapidly across the keyboard. He's been documenting everything since we left the party last night. And you mentioned being denied access? Officer Martinez asks, her pen poised above her notepad. I retrieve a small envelope from my purse. Christmas card from last year, returned unopened with not accepting visitors written across it. I slide it toward her. That's my mother's handwriting, not my grandfather's. Officer Martinez examines the envelope, her professional detachment visibly shifting as she compares the handwriting to a birthday card I've produced that contains Grandpa's actual penmanship. The differences are unmistakable. Now, about the ear discrepancies, I continue, laying out side-by-side photos. The man in the wheelchair has attached earlobes. My grandfather's are clearly free-hanging. I tap the photographic evidence. Dean noticed it immediately. Ears are like fingerprints, Dean adds from across the room. They don't change. Officer Martinez leans forward, her neutral expression cracking. In my 15 years on the force, I've never seen anything quite like this. My phone buzzes against the nightstand, my mother's name flashing on the screen. I hesitate before answering, placing it on speaker. How dare you call the police on your own family? Mother's voice fills the room, stripped of its usual artificial sweetness. Raw fury vibrates through each syllable. Do you have any idea what you've done? Officer Martinez straightens, her eyes locked on the phone. I hadn't told my family about contacting the authorities. I think the better question is what you've done. I reply, surprising myself with the steadiness in my voice. Where is Grandpa? The silence that follows stretches so long I check to make sure the call hasn't dropped. Officer Martinez scribbles something in her notebook, nodding at me to continue. Mother? I prompt, where is Grandpa Walter? The line goes dead. I place the phone down slowly, meeting Officer Martinez's gaze. She closes her notebook with deliberate care. Mrs. Quinn, she says, that call just convinced me your family has something to hide. When my mother hung up after that damning silence, I wondered if I should press further with the police investigation or try one more time to get the truth directly from my family. Would justice for Grandpa come through official channels or through forcing a family confession? Officer Martinez stands, tucking her notebook into her jacket pocket. I need to make some calls, but I'll be back shortly. Based on what you've shown me, we're opening an investigation. The door closes behind her with a soft click, leaving Dean and me alone with the scattered evidence of my family's deception. I reached out to your grandfather's attorney, Dean says, turning his laptop toward me. Robert Simmons. He's agreed to speak with us tomorrow morning. I nod, grateful for Dean's foresight. What did you tell him? Just that we're concerned about Walter's welfare and need to verify some information. Dean closes his laptop. He seemed hesitant, like he wanted to say more but couldn't. Attorney-client privilege, I murmur. Maybe. Dean agrees, but he agreed to meet us. That's something. My phone rings again. Carly this time. You're ruining everything, she sobs when I answer. The police are talking to Mrs. Abernathy next door. Do you know how this looks for us? How what looks, Carly? I ask, gripping the phone tighter. The truth? You don't understand what you're doing, she says, her voice dropping to a harsh whisper. You never did, always taking what isn't yours. I think of the mountain house, of the family portrait without me, of the locked bedroom door. If something happened to Grandpa Walter, I deserve to know. You deserve nothing, she hisses before hanging up. Dean wraps his arms around me as I set the phone down. She's scared, he says against my hair. They all are. The hotel room phone rings, startling us both. I answer to find Officer Martinez on the line. Mrs. Quinn, I wanted to let you know we've obtained a search warrant for your grandfather's property. We'll be executing it first thing tomorrow morning. Her voice is formal but tinged with something like anticipation. I suggest you and your husband be ready at 7. After I hang up, I return to the bed where the photos of my grandfather are still arranged in their semicircle. His eyes look back at me from across time, kind, clear, and honest. Everything my family has proven not to be. We'll find out what happened to him, Dean promises, sitting beside me. Whatever it is. I nod, running my finger across Grandpa Walter's familiar smile. They thought they could hide the truth forever. They were wrong. The knock on my hotel room door comes just after 7 in the morning. Dean opens it while I hover by the window, arms crossed tight against my chest. Mother stands in the hallway, her face a mask of forced calm. Behind her, Carly's red-rimmed eyes betray hours of crying, and a man I recognize as Uncle Travis fidgets with his car keys. May we come in? Mother asks, her artificial sweetness returning. We need to talk. Dean looks to me for confirmation. I nod once, stepping away from the window but maintaining my distance as they file into the room. Uncle Travis, who I've only seen at major family events over the years, keeps glancing at the door as if calculating his escape route. We're offering a compromise, Mother says, perching on the edge of the desk chair. Drop this ridiculous investigation, and we'll explain everything. Everything? I repeat, noticing how Carly won't meet my eyes. Some things are better left alone, Harper. Uncle Travis says, his voice rough. You start digging, and nobody wins. Not you, not us. Mother leans forward, hands clasped tightly in her lap. Walter wouldn't want this, dear. He'd want peace in the family. You'd know what he wants, wouldn't you? I ask. Since you've been keeping him all to yourself these past 4 years. Carly finally looks up. Please, Harper, just stop. You'll regret pushing this further. The threat hangs in the air between us. Dean moves closer to me, his presence steady and reassuring. No more games, I say, my voice stronger than I feel. I want the truth about Grandpa Walter. Mother stands abruptly. We're trying to protect you. From what? My own inheritance? Her face pales. Carly makes a small, strangled sound. Yes, I've been busy, I continue, watching their expressions crumble. I spoke with Walter's attorney yesterday. He confirmed there have been no changes to Grandpa's will since 2019, when I was named his primary beneficiary. Dean retrieves his laptop from the bedside table and opens it, turning the screen toward them. We also pulled property records. Walter Quinn is still listed as the legal owner of the Mountain House. Not Meredith Quinn, not Travis Quinn. Uncle Travis sinks onto the bed, his shoulders slumping. I don't need your explanations, I say, gaining confidence with each word. I need the truth about my grandfather, the real Walter Quinn, not whoever that man in the wheelchair was. Mother steps toward me, hand outstretched. Harper, please. A sharp knock interrupts her plea. Dean opens the door to find Officer Martinez standing in the hallway with another officer. Miss Quinn, Martinez says, nodding to me before taking in the crowd in our room. I see the family's all here. That saves us some time. She enters without waiting for an invitation, her partner remaining by the door. We've completed our investigation, Martinez says, her gaze moving between each family member before settling on me. Walter Quinn passed away on the 12th of November, 2021. He was buried on family land without a formal death certificate being filed. The room spins around me. I grab the edge of the desk to steady myself. 2021? He's been dead for almost 4 years? Carly begins to sob, but I feel nothing for her tears now. Who was in the wheelchair? Dean asks, his voice tight with anger. Uncle Travis raises his hand slightly. Me, he admits, with the gray wig and makeup. I'm about his build. Martinez continues. We found documentation in a safe at the Mountain House. Your grandfather left everything to you, Miss Quinn. The house, his investments, everything. According to neighbors we interviewed, your family began denying you access shortly after his health declined. They needed me to see Walter alive, I whisper, the pieces finally locking into place. If I believed he was still alive, I couldn't claim my inheritance. Mother doesn't deny it. He wasn't thinking clearly when he made that will. You barely visited in those last years. Because you kept telling me he couldn't have visitors. My voice rises, years of frustration breaking through. You lied to me for 4 years while you lived in his house, spent his money. We took care of him until the end, Carly interjects. You were off building your life in Seattle, while we were changing his diapers and managing his medications. Officer Martinez clears her throat. We're looking at multiple charges here. Failure to report a death, identity deception, misappropriation of funds. The district attorney will make final determinations, but this is serious. Uncle Travis stands, shoulders squared. It was Meredith's idea, all of it. Mother whirls toward him. Travis, don't you dare. I'm not going to jail for this, he snaps. Martinez gestures to her partner, who steps forward. We'll need all of you to come down to the station to give formal statements. I watch in numb silence as they're escorted out. Carly pauses at the door, turning back with tears streaming down her face. He loved you, Harper. Despite everything, he really did. After they leave, Dean closes the door and sits beside me on the bed, neither of us speaking. Eventually, I retrieved the photo of Grandpa Walter and me from my suitcase, tracing the outline of his face with my fingertip. 4 years of silence suddenly make perfect sense. The returned cards, the refused calls, the excuses. He wasn't ignoring me, he was already gone, and my family had buried not just his body, but the truth along with it. I hold the photograph against my heart, and finally allow myself to grieve for the man who loved me enough to leave me everything, and for the years of mourning his family had stolen from me. 2 weeks later, the mountain house stands silent as I turn the key in the lock. My house now. The thought still feels foreign, like borrowed clothes that don't quite fit. Sunlight streams through windows that once framed Grandpa Walter's face as he pointed out distant peaks and told stories of his younger days scaling them. I move through rooms that were forbidden to me just days ago, running my fingers along bookshelves stripped of Walter's beloved photography volumes. The family cleared out quickly after the truth emerged, taking what valuables they could carry but leaving behind the weight of their deception. Dean follows with his camera, methodically documenting empty drawers and barren walls where artwork once hung. Evidence for the attorneys who will untangle years of financial mismanagement. They even took his fly fishing medals. I say, voice tight as I stare at faint rectangles on the wall where frames once hung. Those weren't even valuable, just sentimental. My footsteps echo through the hallway until I reach the doorway of what was once Grandpa's workshop. The conversion to a home theater is even more jarring in the empty house leather recliners, where his workbench stood, projector mounted where shelves of cameras once displayed his life's passion. This is where we start, I announce, voice stronger than I expect. I cross to the central recliner and grip its arms, feeling unexpected rage bubble up from somewhere deep. With a sudden heave, I push it toward the door. Harper, let me help, Dean says, already at my side. No, the word comes out sharp. I need to do this myself. One by one, I move the heavy chairs out into the hallway. Sweat dampens my shirt, and my muscles burn with the effort, but something lightens in my chest with each piece of their intrusion I remove. When the room stands empty, I pull a small frame from my bag, the photo I found of Grandpa and me in his darkroom when I was 12. His weathered hand rests on my shoulder as I hold up my first developed photograph. Dean watches from the doorway as I hang it on the wall where that ridiculous family portrait once dominated the room. In the golden afternoon light, Grandpa's smile seems to approve. You're reclaiming his space, Dean says quietly. I'm reclaiming everything they tried to take. Later, we sit in Walter's study. The windows frame the same mountains he loved, unchanged by human deception. Dean pours 2 glasses of Walter's favorite whiskey from the bottle we brought, one final thing they failed to find and take. To Walter, Dean says, raising his glass. He would have wanted you to have this place, to keep his legacy alive. The amber liquid burns pleasantly as I swallow. I still can't believe they pretended he was alive all these years. People do desperate things for money. It wasn't just money, I say, settling deeper into Walter's chair. It was control. They couldn't stand that he chose me. Dean squeezes my hand once before moving to check the fireplace. I close my eyes, absorbing the quiet. When I open them again and head to the kitchen for water, I spot it immediately, a small white note on the counter that wasn't there before. The handwriting is unmistakably my mother's. You always were good at taking what wasn't yours. My hands don't shake as I pick it up. Without hesitation, I hold one corner to the gas flame on the stove and watch fire consume her words. The ashes dissolve in the sink under running water. Back in the study, I pour another finger of whiskey and settle into Grandpa's chair. The house still smells faintly of his wood polish and pipe tobacco. Outside, snow begins to dust the mountains he taught me to love. As I sit in Grandpa's chair that evening, I wonder if I should try to rebuild any relationship with my family, or if some bridges, once burned, should stay ashes. Would you attempt reconciliation with family who betrayed you so deeply, or would you focus on honoring the memory of those who truly loved you?